And welcome to the Texas Real Estate Show. And here we are on this bright morning here in Houston, Texas. I'm glad to say the rain has moved out and we are ready to rock and roll for one of our Houston summers, hopefully, or Brighton spring. And I love the spring in Houston. It's such a beautiful place. And I'm here with my good friend Kay. Good morning, Kay. How you doing, Kay?
I am good.
Are you ready to rock and roll?
I am.
Yeah, rodeo coming up. So we're all getting ready to put our cowboy hats on and our boots and enjoy the rodeo. What's your favorite food at the rodeo?
The fried cheesecake.
Oh, okay. I'm not into all this fried stuff. Not at my age. It's not good for my heart. Anyway, this morning we are going to talk about an LA agent has been charged with rental price gouging as fires continue out in California. Mike Kabisky, president and broker of Kabisky Properties, told Inman that the state's district attorneys had got their facts bungled and that the property in question had been rented out to the couple at a reduced rate once it became known that they were wildfire victims. So what's your take on that, Miss Kay?
I think it's, it sucks because, this is something that happens a lot during disasters and things like that. So, it just looks like there's a house in Glendale, which I'm not sure if you know where Glendale is, but it's a little suburb of LA. And they were trying to he was accused of trying to charge 50% more than the listed price to a family. So
I think it's sad that people do that. I do think that you're going to get people that are just multiple offers for rentals and for sales, and there was a problem before the fire, and I think it's just going to get even worse, to be perfectly honest.
yeah. Well, California actually has a law to where you're not allowed to raise it more than 10% during times of emergencies. So that is one of the biggest reason is because of price gouging that happens because there's so many fires in California, so many mudslides, sinkholes. So there's always some type of disaster going on. So
yeah, it was reported that there was a sinkhole apparently somewhere in California the other day.
There's one in Japan right now too.
Really?
Sinkhole opened up in Japan. So yeah, but it says several news outlets have reported rental prices quickly going up in the greater LA area, such as a Bel Air listing, which nearly doubled from $15,900 a month, which is already psychotic, to $29,500 in the days after the fire started. Because people need places to live, and celebrities are just, scrounging. They're probably just looking for somewhere to go, so they're willing to pay $29,000, just to get somewhere, just to get in somewhere. So
well,
but I think it is ridiculous
for somebody to pay that sort of rent just blows me away.
Yeah, for them to be able to afford that's a ton, but for it to things like this, 15,000 is already crazy, but 29,000 is
it's
that's
doubled.
Predatory. Yeah, it doesn't matter how much someone has, they're in a time of need and to do this, especially as a real estate agent, I wouldn't have thought that. But
one of the downsides to capitalism.
yeah, and so it says that he's facing up to a year in prison and a $10,000 fine per instance. So yeah, but I'm happy that they caught it, and they caught it quickly. I mean, that's very fast.
Well, I think in a situation like this, I think they're going to be on the lookout for it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, dozens of houses.
When we had the hurricane I forget what hurricane it was, but it affected New Orleans. We had so many Louisianans coming into Houston, looking for rental properties, and we just couldn't find them for them. There wasn't enough rental properties in Houston. They was going even further. Some of them were going to Dallas. Some of them were going as far as College Station.
Yeah.
we just could not find them rental properties. There was a shortage of rental properties then, back in the 2000, I think it was 2008, 2010, around there. It was a really bad time. But yeah, absolutely, feel for that. And then the last thing we're going to cover today, because we're going to keep this nice and short today, is how new home buyers are starting to struggle. What's basically happening now, there's some new home buyers now that are offering 5% to the agents as an incentive. Personally, good agents should never ever be incentivized by the commission that they're being paid.
Right.
But I basically think they shouldn't be doing that. But the normal split is 3% they get paid. Some new home builders are basically paying what they call a BTSA, which is bonus to selling agent, or they'll do that, or what they will do is they'll offer, which I think is a better way to do it, offer incentives for the buyer, which might be upgrades in your kitchen. But I think new home builders have got an even bigger problem at the moment because they are being built very, very poorly. And to show you that situation, I did an inspection at a property that was built in 1936 2 weeks ago, and even the inspector said the bare bones of this property is built completely different to a new home. There was still a lot of deferred maintenance at the property, but the truth of the matter is, the inspector was actually very impressed with the bare bones of the house, the framing, the stairways, and everything else. So, the question is, why would a builder of new homes offer a 5% commission? Why do you think?
Because they need that. But I mean, that kind of goes. I mean, people want more. The houses suck probably, but I think that's why hopefully with that information coming through, Trump's plans for emergency price relief on housing that he says he's going to do, hopefully that will come into play.
How do you think Mr. Trump is going to help the housing market?
I don't know. That's what. So we have this article here, and that's what I'm intrigued to see.
Is he going to help the new home builders and corporations?
Yeah. So he has a few different things, which some of these I don't.
Because I don't understand it because he's so vague.
Yeah. So it says Trump's bid to slash construction regulations, which is terrible, I think. That goes into what we were just talking about the houses already being crappy. So I don't think that the new construction, I just don't think that it's going to be positive, because we already are having problems, like we just said, with builders having such terrible, or not terrible, but they have shoddy craftsmanship. So the fact that one of the things that he's proposing is to cut down on the construction regulations is terrible. I mean, people's houses are going to be falling over.
It's funny how corporations want less regulation, and yes, it's the regulation that protects the everyday guy on the street.
Right.
So
that just means more repairs for the consumer. Instead of a house lasting.
Indirectly, if you think about it, it's another way of passing costs on to the consumer.
Exactly.
Because they've got to repair items that are insufficient.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. So, a house that might have been, good for 15 years, you'll probably have to start doing, maintenance and upgrades on them, after 5 or 6. If these if the regulations get cut, because it's really bad. One of the things that they said is President Trump understands that America is facing a housing affordability crisis, And the only way out of this crisis is to remove barriers like unnecessary and costly regulations that are raising housing costs. And this, I am so sorry to the listeners of this podcast. I know you guys can't see me, but I'm in an uproar right now because I am a millennial and I can't afford to purchase a house. So it is extremely frustrating because if you say the barriers and costly regulations, it's frustrating because I live in one of a condo that Steven manages. And the reason that I live there is one of the big things, I know Steven probably doesn't know this, is that I looked up to see how long the condo was in standing because I'm not going to move into a new construction. There's no way because I don't want to hear my neighbors. You know, I don't want to hear them talking, you know, and also I just know that the quality is going to be better. So it's so frustrating to be like, oh, okay, we're going to create new, you know, more houses for millennials, but you're going to make them awful. You're going to make it, you know, we get crap. And it's like, I don't want to live.
But you know, there's more and more people that want to live in older houses these days.
I have always wanted to, you know, the houses downtown that are all brick and stuff like that. I told my friend, I was like, that is such a beautiful house. I want to live there. She was like, you want to live there? She was like, that's a nice house to you? I was like, yes, it's going to last. I will live in that house until I'm 75. You want to live in a house and your house is going to be gone by the time you're 40. So it is. So that's one of the big things. And then they say Trump may seek to open federal land for housing. The Native American? What do you mean? The natives? You want to take away native land? That's what it is. Federal protected land is 90% of it is Native Americans' land. So once again, what do you mean? It's protected. You can't do that. Like, I mean, and we live in a place that has more than enough space for housing. I mean, we live in Texas. There's more than enough space. So even thinking about opening federal land, to me, just sounds crazy. I'm from California. There's more than enough space. It doesn't make any sense. And it's just like, I feel bad for those, especially the natives, because they're going to end up getting pushed out of their homes if this passes. I mean,
it wouldn't be the first time they're being pushed out.
Right. You're going to take away their land again for the second time? How many times are we going to do this to these poor people? I just feel that's ridiculous. So it says opening federal lands for residential construction is a much more direct measure that could take, provided that environmental concerns are taken into account and that coordination will lower government levels, ensure speedy delivery of homes. And it's like, we've talked about this. We have a video that will be out on Monday talking about just building homes and things of that nature. And there are a lot of houses that can just be renovated. You know, we don't need to build new houses. Half of the houses that they demolish don't need to be demolished. They just need to be, it would cost less for them to just be upkept, you know, go ahead and take care of it, you know, rather than building new homes and, you know, making it hard for people to be able to afford places. I mean,
right.
So there, like you said, this is extremely vague, and the three options that have been given to us are absurd. Personally, I think that it's absurd. How do you feel about it, Stephen?
No, I do think it's absurd. And it's like, to me, all this is words. I'd like to know how he intends to physically do it. You know, to me, it's all bluster.
Yeah, especially
from being involved in the real estate industry. I don't know how it's going to. I think you're better off giving people who buy new homes the relief on the income tax credit on interest, and I think you're better off giving people, if they buy a home, is giving them a first time home buyers relief on their tax. You know, because that way it makes it more affordable. Because we're at the point of this podcast, the average cost of a home throughout the US is $400,000. That's the median price of a home, is $400,000. Now, if you go out to California, you couldn't get a tent for $400,000. You know.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's just unrealistic. And I watched a program the other day, and it was saying that for somebody to afford a $400,000 home, they've got to make $115,000 a year.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
How many people make $115,000 a year?
That is what I was going to say. Typically, you know, if you have been a long time listener to this podcast, we do go over, you know, at least twice a year how much it costs to be able to afford a home. And I think that next week is probably when we're going to give you that breakdown for, you know, state by state. But $115,000, I mean, yeah, there's not a ton of people who are able to do that. I think they even said that middle class recently, didn't they say that middle class was between $45,000 and $100,000 per year? So that's not even middle. So middle class people.
I thought it was a little bit lower than that personally. But
yeah, they stopped it at 99,000 is what they said. But
I mean, I just feel that, you know, the middle class are being screwed.
Yeah, I mean, that's not even middle class to be able to afford.
You know, you've got the billionaires and the millionaires that are, you know, up at the White House, and none of them have ever gone through the struggles that some of the, you know, the middle class have.
And I think that's what it is. And or if they have, like Grant Steffens or Stevens, however you want to pronounce his name, I think if they have, it's like they forgot. You know, they forgot what it was like to be a part of the struggle. And also, they grew up in a time where it was a little bit easier to make it, you know.
I just want to comment on part of the comments on this article. It says, President Trump understands that America is facing a housing affordability crisis, and the only way out of this crisis is to remove barriers like unnecessary and costly regulations that are raising housing costs and preventing builders from building more attainable, affordable housing, said NHB Chairman Carl Harris. What do you think the chairman of the National Association of Home Builders is going to say? You know, I mean, to be perfectly honest, that's not what's pushing up the price of houses. It's the cost of the lumber, it's the cost of, you know, the labor and everything else that goes into that. And without getting too much into politics, as we push into tariffs with different countries, we get an awful lot of lumber, you know, from Canada and everywhere else, and it's things like that that's going to work against us. You know, I'm not saying that tariffs aren't going to work. Mr. Trump's our president, and I you know, acknowledge him for that. But I really, you know, can't see that. I think it'll be interesting to see what the Fed, you know, how they're going to handle everything going, and things do work out. But whatever we do, I think what we need to do, unfortunately, is go the way that Europeans have gone, which is houses have got to get smaller. You know, I mean, when I came to Houston originally and seen the size of the house, I thought I was walking in a cave because it was just so big, my first house. And I just wasn't used to that size of house. But the new houses that are coming out, that are available for rental and also for purchase, they're starting to be smaller. As Kay said, they're starting to be next to one another with literally, you might have 500 square foot in your yard, which is basically a patio area. You know, square yards or square feet or whatever. So that's sort of it from me. I'm interested to see how this is going to move forward, but I don't really agree with the process.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Yeah. Anything more from you, Kay?
I have nothing else on that, of course.
Okay then. Well, to everybody out there, please give us a thumbs up. Give it, subscribe, like, turn on notifications. We'd love to hear from you. We're changing the days around a little bit at the moment, just because as new news comes out, then we can get on top of that. So we'd love to hear from you. Please post your comments in the chat. good, bad, or indifferent. We'd like to hear from you. So same time, same channel. See you later. Stay healthy. Bye for now.